So what happens when we have a screw, a nail, a length of wood, an I-beam, that we have a bunch of different things that have the same form to them but different dimensions? Well, you have one of two options. One, you can either go and save this model as a copy, make a new model, da 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 da. The other way is to use what's called a configuration instead of spooling up a bunch of models. So if we go here, these two little boxes, the configuration manager, and it'll bring up this form that shows the model and all the configurations. Now, you'll notice right there it says W8 times 31. That used to say default. I just went and right-clicked it and then went into properties, and I renamed it because that's what the beam is. So what I want to do is I want to have the computer be faster. I want to add a configuration. So we're going to go here, just right-click on it, go add a configuration. And what am I going to name it? I'm just going to name it a different beam. So in this case, we're going to make it a W10 times 45 wide flange beam. And so this way now we'll have two different configurations within the same model. Now notice it automatically highlights that. So that's the one we're working with. So what I want to do is I'm just going to double click on the feature here, and you notice all the dimensions appear. That's great. And so what I want to do is I want to change the dimensions. Now, if I just go in and change the dimensions, both of them are going to change. I have to tell SolidWorks, hey, I only want you to change this dimension as part of a configuration. So if you sit there and you right-click on the dimension, you can say configure dimensions. And so that's for a configuration. And notice it brings up a little box. And it goes, okay, well, for that dimension, we have the W831 is going to be the 0.435 that we had. But for the W10, I want to change that to 0.62. And I'll say, okay. And notice that now that one got a little bit fatter in this dimension. In fact, if I go back to the 831, it goes, do you want me to rebuild? And there you go, rebuild. Now, we only grabbed one dimension there. We need to grab the rest of them. And so we'll sit here and we'll configure dimension. I'm not sure why that warning box keeps popping up. That has to do with the way that they have this installed on my laptop. So instead of 285, we're going to want that to be 350. And then we're just going to keep doing this for every dimension. Now, I will show you later how to do this all one big table, but right now we're just going to do them one at a time. So that 8 inches, which is really 7.9. Oh, don't want to do it like that. Remember, want to configure dimension because we want this to be a configuration. So, and it's showing it to 2 decimal places. That's why we're not getting the 7.995, but it is still there. So for that one, 8202. I believe we've created those. This is the last one left. Once again, we need to go into configure dimension. Now, one thing to notice, you notice all the other ones were called, D1, D2, D3. This one's called depth. I changed that name because I put it together. We can change the names of the dimensions, which are going to be really useful for when we do this via a big table or when we do this, when we start writing equations, but we'll get to that. So here we go, and the depth for this guy is 10.10. And then all of those are in there. Notice that we could create a new configuration here and just be doing a lot of them at the same time, but we're just going to stick to the one configuration right now. Okay, and so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to rebuild this guy. And so here we go. So this is my new beam. And if I go to W8 by 31, notice it got a lot smaller, things got thinner. And so this is how we can control configurations within the system. Now, after you've got this set up, what I would recommend doing is going to section 3.1 in your textbook, which is on page 84. There's a configuration that lists out the W12 by 65. Why don't you give that a try, putting in that third configuration?